Brothers, sis, I'd like to briefly talk about some spiritually of them is I love burning frankincense. It is the bomb for me. It's amazing. I always feel spiritually uplifted, and it's said that ancient cultures valued frankincense far before Christianity did. Before Catholicism, it's still burned um, in Catholic churches, of course, and maybe Episcopalian, depending. But I love the stuff, and I burn it in heaps. My favorite brand is actually HEM, capital H, capital E, capital M. You can find this on Amazon. You can find this at many spiritual shops. You can. This one has I think it has about 30 sticks in it, and this is a big package. Sometimes there's smaller packages with about 15, but I love the stuff, and I burn it quite a bit because it makes me feel more connected to higher vibrations, if that makes any sense. I talk about vibration quite a bit, but here I'm talking about increasing your personal spiritual vibration, not necessarily connecting you to higher realms, higher vibrations of when it comes to different planes of existence, though that's possible. But I'm more talking about your spirit, your life force. Vibrating at a higher level because of frankincense. And another thing that I like to burn for the same reason is but it's more cleansing, and it actually, scientists have proven recently that it actually kills a lot of bacteria in the air, is white sage smudge sticks, and these things last for a while. It's kind of inconvenient when you have a whole bunch of it burned and then you're trying to get to the leaves in between, so you kind of got to tear off some of the outer leaves. But I burn this to purify my room, the house, and I usually hit the corners while saying "Hecas, Hecas, este bebeloi," which basically means "Away, away, all you profane." Hit all the corners, closet, room, maybe every corner of the house. It depends on how far you want to go with this, but if you hit every corner of every room, then that's ideal. And you definitely want to kind of move it in a circle in the center of every room, because you want to have that presence at the center as well. Now, when we burn things like this, uh, there are many different spiritual traditions that rely on sage or sage-like things. For my Viking ancestors, it was more mugwort, and I do use mugwort. I eat it. I It actually helps with stomach cramps. I burn it, and sometimes I'll combine it with other components to make oils. And this is something that you kind of learn from different magical or spiritual tomes. But you can look it up online how to make mugwort oil. And to make it very concentrated is extremely difficult, and it takes quite a bit of mugwort in order to just make one vial, a few drams worth. But what we have to do in our daily lives is develop a certain set of practices, at least a few, that when we're having a terrible day, when we're having a day that we either just want to end, or we feel like we need to resolve some issues that we had during the day that are internally bothering us, that are internally a problem, that either makes us question our relationship with somebody else, our situation in life, or really even our spiritual nature. Because there are some days when we don't feel like we're connected to higher realms, to spirits, or to God. So we don't feel like there's a spiritual energy around us. We feel like we're isolated. We have those days. And if you have enough little spiritual practices, then you can really pull yourself out of those bad days. Frankincense is a great method. Why burning white sage is a great method, and these are very material-based methods. I am from Texas, for the person who asked, but and I live in Texas, Dallas area. Now, besides the physical burning of things, let's talk about some internal practices. When you're having a really bad day, when you feel spiritually isolated from everyone else, or you feel like you're not progressing in your job, in your life, you feel like your relationships are going bad, you need to be able to have a core, a spiritual core that you can return to and just keep the outside world outside. Get isolated at your core. Now, a lot of the time, breathing exercises are very useful. If you just sit upright, if you're at a desk job, you sit upright in your chair and you put your hands like this, pointed, and you're just either pointing up to your third eye or pointing forward, whatever you want, or maybe you're kind of pointing your thumbs inward towards your solar plexus. And you breathe in and out very slowly. Both the outtake and the intake and the out breath have to be even. They have to be the same amount and they have to be slow. But as you breathe in and out, just allow these thoughts to be pushed out of basically your mind. Imagine, not necessarily through visualization, but just imagine with feeling that all the negative thoughts are being pushed out of your brain, that they're being expelled, that they're being pushed away by each intake and outtake breath. Now, this simple breathing exercise can really help you calm down, return to your center. Well, I'll go ahead and address the question: why did I choose the Hindu religion? I found Hinduism. I've said this quite a bit, but I found Hinduism after a long spiritual journey, study of different religions, study of different spiritual traditions, and Hinduism is really the only one that it made sense. And that I found consecutive life lessons, spiritual lessons that really never ebbed. As I've gone through my spiritual journey, I found that there are always more teachings, more scripture, and more to learn in Hinduism than any other religion or spiritual tradition that I found. But at any rate, when we find this core, when we're doing a breathing exercise and we push all those thoughts out with in breath, out breath, allowing it all to go away from us, then we find ourselves at a calm center that allows us to truly look at our lives, the problems in our lives, how to deal with the problems that we felt that are overwhelming. Because a lot of the time in our societal lives, we feel overwhelmed, and we have to have these little spiritual practices in order to make decisions from a powerful stance. Now, the only way to be powerful is to be calm. The only way to make good decisions is to come from a place that is not overloaded with emotion. Now, another spiritual practice that hello to the person that said holla hunter. Another spiritual practice that I would recommend is carrying crystals. Now, rose quartz or quartz crystals are very purifying crystals. Now, if you don't believe in the spirituality of carrying crystals around, that's fine, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it anyway. If you carry quartz around, like a quartz this big, or maybe you want a quartz set of a whole bunch of little small pieces. If you just carry that in your pocket in a pouch, then you'll find that your energy is a little bit more clean. You feel a little bit more clean, if that makes any sense. You feel like there is a filter for the negativity, and this little item, this little trinket that you're carrying around, kind of allows for you to have a little spiritual filter in your pocket, basically. Now, what Hindu gods do I like? That's one of the questions I see down there. Kali Ma is the main form of God that I worship the grander whole through. And we're all part of God in my viewpoint. And the different Hindu gods are different pieces, different functions of the one source. And then human beings and other beings are smaller pieces of God, but we're working our way up. And, not just Hindu gods, the gods of my Northern European ancestors, all gods are functions of the cosmos that we are working towards and working to be as they move on to complete union with the grander whole, the source. Now, one last, to wrap this up, one last little spiritual practice that I would recommend is writing when you're feeling overwhelmed, or when you're at the end of the day, when you feel like the day did not go well. Write down everything you wish you had on a piece of paper, and then write down what you think is getting in your way of having those things, or those kinds of relationships, those good relationships, those functional relationships in your life. Write down all the things that you think are getting in your way of you having those kind of relationships, and then you fold up that piece of paper, and you go back and you look at it later. You don't look at it that day. You fold up that piece of paper, relinquish that part of your ideology, part of that idea of what's going on in your life for that day. You fold it up, put it aside. Look at it the next day. Examine if you still feel like those problems you had that day and what's getting in your way of having what you want in that day. Look at it the next day or the next day after that, and try to realize how you truly think in those moments when you feel overwhelmed or you feel like none of your relationships are going well or you're just not getting what you want. Try to understand how you think in those moments by collecting these pieces of paper of writing down, your goals and what you think is getting in your way. And then, over time, you'll start to see how your consciousness behaves when you're thinking negatively. And then what you do, you have this kind of, this flow chart of your mind's order. And then you start to basically, once you have enough of these and you've analyzed how you think when you're thinking pessimistically, you try and flip it. You try and look at what is helping you towards your goals, towards better relationships, towards your goals in life. And you start to, say what you do have compared to what other people don't have. And all these pieces of paper and all these pessimistic and optimistic outlooks on what you have and what you're going for, and if you have it, they can be, if you collect these, you'll have a complete understanding, over months and months and months of how your brain works at its best and how it works at its worst. Your brain works terribly. It doesn't work, with complete vibration when you're pessimistic, when you're doubting yourself, when you think you're not going towards what you need. And that's, that daily practice of writing down these goals and what you think is getting in your way, then trying to flip it, that'll help you as well. And I'll go ahead and name another one as I'm getting more questions. What do I think about Christianity? Christianity, I went through. Christianity is something that I studied. I read most of the Bible, and I read other Christian books, and I went to church, and I went to Bible meetings, and there were so many questions that just weren't answered in Christianity that I found answers for in Hinduism. The idea of hell, God sending anybody to hell for an eternity, doesn't make any sense to me. You never get a chance to learn from your mistakes. You're just punished eternally. I don't think that God could do that. I really don't. And I believe in punishment, karma, but equal punishment for equal crime. You don't get punished infinitely for a finite crime. It doesn't make any sense. That's one thing that put me off about Christianity, and one reason I moved past it. There's many others, but let me name one more spiritual practice. Try to be conscious of eating. And this seems strange, but let me explain. Try, when you're eating something, when you're on lunch break, when you're on breakfast, when you're on dinner, remain silent. Even if there's other people around you, keep speech to a minimum and calm, and just focus on eating slowly and really allowing your body to assimilate the food. Now, a lot of time we just shove food in our mouth on lunch break and just try to get in the calories to fill up our stomach and keep going. But this doesn't allow us to really assimilate all the energies that any piece of food has. So if we properly assimilate by eating slowly, eating consciously, eating calmly, then that calmness will be what we spiritually experience. How we eat plays as much a part as what we eat in our true digestion of the food. Now our spirit will be fed, eventually once it filters through our body by the food that we eat. So if we're calm, if we're focused, then that food will be assimilated at a higher rate of vibration. Instead of just shoving a bunch of food in our mouths, we can truly be active in the process of consuming nourishment. Now, when we go through our lives day in and day out, it's easy to toss a lot of these practices aside to not stay with our spiritual practices, whatever they may be, however small, like frankincense and sage smudge sticks, or however big, like 30-minute meditations every day, maybe even twice a day. It's easy to toss those aside because we get busy and we start to focus on trying to get more money, trying to make sure our family's okay. But we find that if we make time for spiritual practices, then somehow we are more efficient at everything that we do. So never forget to have these little spiritual practices, or develop your own, or research others, because I haven't covered very many here at all, and make them a part of your day, because this will actually make everything that you do in your life more effective, because you'll be interactive with your life instead of just trying to get to another paycheck. You're just trying to get to another hour through another hour. But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that some of the things that I said made sense. If they did, if they didn't, feel free to shoot down in the comment section below. And don't forget to support me on Patreon. www.patreon.com/darkrealist. Capital D, capital R. And you can also type in Hunter Salazar on Patreon. And I just asked for $1 a month, and you can get, for $1 a month, you can get, things that I write that I don't post on YouTube or Facebook, videos that I don't post on Facebook or on YouTube. And you get all that for $1 a month, and you'd be really helping me out because this is a new Patreon account, and I'd really greatly appreciate any new patrons that I get. But at any rate, thank all of you for watching, and I hope all of y'all have a great day because mine's getting better.